10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
And live once again on Tuesday night, it is the Competition Plus Power Hour. And we just wrapped up with the NHRA Super Grip Thunder Valley Nationals. And just like that echo through the valley there at Bristol Dragway, we're going to be echoing the Thunder Valley Nationals right here on the Power Hour. I'm Lee Kraft, a.k.a. the Monday Morning Racer. And over there is Mr. Bland, Dujanay Bland. Certainly he's not bland at all with his own show or this show. How's it rocking tonight, Mr. Bland?
It's rocking, man. It is rocking. We are halfway through the regular season, and we've had surprises just about every week. Like, this drag racing season has been so unpredictable, and the Thunder Valley Nationals wasn't any different.
Certainly was no different. Surprises across the categories that were in competition, whether that's a win, take it away, DQ'd, or whether that is, well, the young lady we're going to be talking to, I doubt many people had in their drag racing bracket bonanza going all the way to the final round with the potential to beat Gage Herrera. But she, being Jianna Evaristo, had that opportunity and had a good Sunday there at Bristol Dragway for the Super Grip Thunder Valley Nationals. We'll be talking with her in just a few moments. Dujanay, sum it up from outside of the track, you looking in on the event, what it was to you in media and as a fan.
Man, it was one heck of an event. I thought everybody did a heck of a job of from top end to the guys on the starting line, the drivers, the riders. It was a great event. The fans, I mean, we're starting to get like, these drag race bracket bonanza posters. We're starting to get a little WWE, AEW signs in the, in the stands and walking around the pits. This thing is growing, and I love it. I really love it. Now we just need to get chants going. If we can get chants going like they do in the WWE and AEW, will be something. But I love the signage. I want people to get more creative with it. But a great event. Thunder Valley is Thunder Valley. It sells itself, and the action proved to be what it has been for the first half of this season, and that's electrifying.
I want to see signs behind Tony Petragon and Brian Loans live on like Saturday as if it is college game day. Right? I want to see those signs.
Yes, that would be awesome.
Everybody, yes, it'd be awesome. It'd be completely awesome. Like, I don't even watch college game day anymore for the picks. I'm like, what signs are out there? What creativity has the ruckus crowds brought to the game day? And like, what is that one fan that makes no sense that they're there, but they got their flag of their university and they're waving it? Love to see that. Love to see that. Well, Dujanay, let's take a break, and we'll get Mrs. Evaristo on here on the Power Hour and chat with her. Folks, we want to say thank you to Weldon High Performance. They literally pump the show up. If you are looking for a pump for your application in motorsports and beyond, even through the wild blue yonder, it is Weldon High Performance, Weldon Pumps. Welcome to the show, Jianna Evaristo. So good to have you on.
Hi, how are you guys? Good, thank you.
We're doing great.
Thank you for having me.
I just had some Chewies here in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and I'm doing a live show, and everybody looks at me very strangely when I do these things on the road, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. It makes it more exciting, different environment every time.
Never know what you're going to get. Never know.
Exactly.
Well, speaking of vibing, how have you been vibing after such a good Sunday there on the mountain and in the valley?
I've been really good. It was a very exciting weekend, for my whole team. But if anything, it was, I think I've been very open about the transition from a Suzuki to V twin and, that whole journey. And, we've been putting in a lot of hard work during the off season and the beginning of the season. And, I feel like this race was really just like a peak for us. And, it was like a breath of fresh air almost. And it was kind of like, okay, like all of this hard work, it's starting to pay off. It's just a little bit and we're obviously nowhere near done or where we want to be, but it was exciting. So I'm still excited. I'm still kind of riding that high. I want to thank everybody who reached out to myself and to my team and everybody. I've had a lot of support and it's been really nice to be able to see that. It's been really awesome. So thank you guys.
What's been the toughest thing about this transition from Suzuki to this particular bike? For me, on the outside watching you on Suzuki, I always thought and loved your riding style because it's like you attack the racetrack. And now this bike is so much different than the other one. What adjustments have you had to make in this transition to start to get, your footing?
Yeah, definitely. And it was really interesting because when we made the decision to make this transition, everyone had told me that yes, the bikes are very different, but I think I misunderstood or like honestly, I don't think I believed them that much. And just the shifting was probably one of the most difficult things for me to get over. When you shift on a V twin, it comes way faster than it does on a Suzuki. That as well as the vibration and just the torque with the V twin is just a completely different feeling that you don't experience with the Suzuki. So, when I first started making, attempts on a V twin, it was so all these new things that I'd never felt before, never experienced before. All I've ever rode was a Suzuki. And it was just a very eye-opening experience. So that was probably the biggest, I guess, hurdle for me to get over and kind of get comfortable with. And, we really had to change my riding style. And it's interesting that you actually bring up my riding style with the Suzuki. And I always felt like I was a very aggressive rider on a Suzuki. A lot of people say that when you ride a Suzuki, you have to have a lot of finesse. Your movements have to be small, this, that. And because they're so much more sensitive. And I feel like that's where I really struggled with the Suzuki because honestly, I kind of lack finesse in my riding. I kind of see myself as more, like I said, an aggressive rider. So bigger movements. And, I think a lot of that comes also with lack of experience. So I think for me, the V twin was kind of a better option because the bike doesn't really even know that I'm there, which is kind of interesting. And that's actually another thing that I've been kind of trying to work through, with my correcting. The way I corrected on a Suzuki is very different than the way I correct on a V twin. But I mean, they're just completely different animals. I love my V twin now. It's extremely fun. Angie always told me that once I went to a V twin that I was never going to want to go back to a Suzuki. I was like, okay, yeah, like I'll wait till I experience it myself. And she was 100% right because I love this bike. It's so much fun. It's definitely a challenge, but it's so much fun. I don't think I could ever go back.
All right, Gianna. Let's go elementary here.
Okay.
Dad, long, skinny car, top fuel. Sister,
Yeah.
long, skinny car, A fuel, now top fuel. You're on a bike. Why?
I know. I don't know. I mean, okay, so I guess to start, I've always loved motorcycles. Always loved motorcycles. But so my dad actually comes from a motorcycle family, grew up riding motorcycles, rode motorcycles before he rode cars. So growing up, I always saw photos of him on a motorcycle. My grandma rode a motorcycle, my aunts, uncles, they all rode motorcycles. But we always had this rule growing up. It was don't look at a motorcycle, don't touch a motorcycle. It's just never going to happen. So it was really interesting because I was like, I knew I loved it, but I knew I could never do it. And then, when I went to college, I decided to go ahead and get my motorcycle license for the street. And then after that, it just kind of like, I don't want to say it all went downhill, but like the obsession went like crazy because, I started riding on the street all the time and I wanted to race. And at the time, I didn't really, the idea of, and it's funny because Jasmine and I just talked about this over the past weekend. And it's the idea. I feel like you can always tell the difference between a car person and a motorcycle person if you ask them this question. And we talk about seatbelts. And to me, the idea of seatbelts and being strapped to something makes me scared. Like that makes me nervous. And the idea of being free and not having seatbelts and being able to get away from the bike is very comforting to me. And it's funny because I asked her the same thing and she said complete opposite. She's like, no, I need to be strapped. And like, for me, that makes me feel comfortable. And like the thought of it makes me nervous. So I don't know. I mean, maybe I was just born different. But for me, I've always loved motorcycles. And for me, I guess I was the only one where it stuck with.
You've got some of the best in the business to be able to glean knowledge from. What are some of the things that Angie or even Matt have been able to kind of help guide you in this journey of the twin?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they're amazing. Just the knowledge and skill that they have is just like none other. And when I joined their team, I think that was most eye-opening experience for me was seeing that, racing for them never stops. It's 24/7. It's not just a physical thing, it's a mindset as well. And to be the best out there, you have to have that mindset with everything that you do in life. They're working in their shop all day, every day, working out constantly. Everything that they do, they are trying to be the best that they can be at. And, they take that mentality and they bring it to the track and it shows in their performance. And that was something that they were really, able to show me and really help me and guide me on my journey, especially when it came to the V twin. Because, it was kind of a hard decision to, especially after the year that I had last year. I finished 5th in points. I ran 200, ran personal best, in my finals. I ran really, really well. It was probably my best year. And, to make the decision to go to the V twin, and we kind of decided like, okay, I'm going to have to take a step back. And, coming off of that high, I was going to have to kind of, I don't want to say go backwards, but, start over again kind of. And it was difficult. And, Matt and Andy really talked to me about it. And they said, we strongly believe that this is the route for you to go. And I 100% agreed with them. And it was the best decision that I ever could have made. And really just their mindset of, not giving up and just, hard work pays off, just, keep pushing and pushing is probably the only reason why I was able to, get through this.
We got a question coming in from Andrew. He asks, how hard is it to ride the bike over the bumps at Bristol? And then I want to add to it, is there any track that you have been on, period, that happens to be bumpier than Bristol, or is it the bumpiest?
I think, each track is very unique. Each track has its own little quirks. Bristol was probably, I'd say, the trickiest when it comes to bumps. Luckily I had raced there before, so we kind of knew exactly where the bumps were. But it's always that first qualifying run on Friday where you go up and you got to like mentally tell yourself, we're like, okay, there's bumps on this track. But then, you like experience them. And then once you do it, you're like, okay, you just as a rider, you have to be a little bit more mindful. But I feel like naturally, in the bike class, there's so many things on the track, crosswind, things like that. It affects us so much more that we're naturally having to, overthink about all these things. So I feel like naturally, it's kind of just in the back of our mind. So it was, I don't want to say it was difficult. It was just more of I think a little tricky. But then like once you do it the first time, you kind of just accept it and move on. And, every track is going to be different. They're all going to be, interesting to navigate. So it's just all part of racing.
You had a really good weekend. What was the biggest thing? What was your biggest takeaway from this weekend with the success that you had?
Honestly, I'd say that the hard work, and the amount of effort, it was really nice to kind of see it pay off just a little bit. I will say, I will own it. I messed up on my lights this weekend. I will be the first person to say that my lights sucked. And that was a really big thing. I'd been dealing with it ever since, I made this transition to V twin. The way I stage is different, things like that are a little different. So still getting used to the bike has caused me to change my routine a little bit. But biggest takeaway, honestly, is I still have a lot of things to work on. But my bike has power. I know that, it helped me gain a lot of confidence in my ability to not just ride this bike, but also be competitive on this bike. And I know that, once I put all the pieces together, that I'm going to have a really, really good bike.
With these two bikes that you now have ridden, which one launches quicker? Is it the V twin, or do they both launch the same?
I think they both launch the same, but the feeling is definitely different. I think the V twin feels a lot more aggressive because of the vibration and the torque that it has. So that was actually probably one of the most difficult things for me to get over. I think when I first rode the V twin, we did some testing. I want to say we went to Gainesville, I believe, and we tested for like 2-3 days. And the first day, I didn't even make like a full on pass. Like I couldn't even get the bike into second, third gear. And it was just really getting used to that launch. And it's not so much that it was, I was leaving, having these amazing 60 foots, things like that. It was just the vibration and the torque. It just pulled so much harder. It was very difficult for me to wrap my head around and like physically get comfortable with. But then like once I was able to get comfortable with it, I was able to know exactly what to expect. But definitely the V-twin.
Speaking of competition, I enjoy asking, especially when it is a pair or group of sisters. I think of Megan and Rachel Meyer. They're highly competitive. Like they tally it, and they despise each other on race day when they go into the staging lanes. Now, even though you all are not in the same class, such as yourself, Jasmine, do you keep tally? Like, hey, I went a little further than you this weekend, and I got one up on you. How do y'all work that out as family?
Definitely not. I mean, that was actually something our parents instilled in us from like a really young age, was not being competitive with each other. The idea of, if one of us rises, we all rise is something that we both, I think everyone in my family really stands by. We both acknowledge we're both on our own journeys. So, I mean, when she goes out there and has a killer weekend, I'm on the line, excited, tearing up, happy for her, and vice versa. We do our best to always support each other. We both know that it's, extremely difficult. And, now that we're racing most of the season without our parents being there has been, different. So we're really all we have out there. We're both lucky to have really good teams. But, it has been a little different and a little bit more difficult not having our parents there for the first season. But I like the idea of us being competitive with each other just makes me laugh because like we just never had competition between like my sisters and I at all growing up. Like my parents were always really, really big about not having that in our family. Like that was like a golden rule. Like it just does not happen. So I mean, we've always been extremely supportive of each other, which is nice.
It's good to hear. It's good to hear.
So I follow you guys on social media. So how many Buc-ee's runs have you guys made this year?
This year I have not made any. So I usually don't really get to do any until we head out to Texas. But I know Jasmine, I want to say, has made a couple so far already. I still live in California, so unfortunately we don't have any out there. If anyone from Buc-ee's is watching right now, please put one in California. I think it'd be amazing. So I always explain it to one of my friends. They had never been there, and I was trying to explain it to them. I was like, you don't understand. It's like Disneyland, but without the rides, and there's guests, and there's like a lot of cool food, and they're just like, I don't understand what you're saying. And then they went and they're like, oh my gosh, I understand what you're saying. And it was just like a whole different experience that I think people from California could really benefit from, and we would enjoy it. So please.
Most definitely.
But Bucky's is an experience for sure.
Yes.
A big
Oh,
time
yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Yes, I look forward to it every year.
I hit it twice. I went home this year, and I hit it both times. The second time I came back, I got the brisket, sausage, and turkey sandwich. Dude, woo,
They're
Lord,
good. They're good.
Yeah.
tasty.
It's like confusing how good it is. Like I was like mind blown. I'm like, why is this brisket sandwich so good? And you're just like kind of questioning like, what are they doing? And what, like, I'm so amazed right now. But at a point you just kind of like, don't question it, just roll with it, accept it.
Yeah.
And I'm happy. So
But Bucky's is great. Bucky's is great.
It is.
What's the number one item? Is it beaver nuggets? Is it the brisket sandwich?
Oh.
Where are you going at Bucky's?
I walk through that door, beeline to the biscuits, to the brisket sandwiches, but specifically the ones with pickles and onions. They don't always have them. I've only been to like a few where they do the pickles on the side, and like
Yeah.
but you have to ask them.
Yeah.
But I've been to some where they do the pickles in the brisket sandwiches already with the onions, and it's just like amazing. I could die a happy woman at that point, honestly. So it's amazing.
Okay.
Very good.
I might need to head towards Macon and see if I can pick up on that.
Your life will be changed.
Oh man, there was a good question in here. This is from Andrew too. He was asking if you learned anything possible safety changes made after your scary crash.
Well, I guess which one? So,
Oh.
So I guess the first one definitely, like, I used to be really embarrassed about my first crash. It was my rookie season. Like now looking back on it, the way I was riding, I had no business being on a motorcycle. I was doing a lot of things that I shouldn't have been doing. I didn't know any better at the time. So I own that crash 100%. I'm nowhere near the rider I was back then. But that one definitely taught me, when enough is enough. Even on race day, every racer is going to tell you they want to win. Everybody wants to win. Everyone's going to give it their 100%. But there comes a point where you kind of need to acknowledge and accept that, a bike can be replaced. You can't. And that was something I learned, very fast. My second crash, as most people know, I really had no control over that. My front forks collapsed. Safety wise, I definitely beefed up my suit, got better shoes, got better gloves. A lot of people say, I've seen a lot of people that think that something like that would never happen to them. And, I hope that it never does, but I'd rather be safe than sorry when it comes to that, because I have experienced it and it's not a fun experience and I don't wish it on anybody. So, just being as safe as you can is more important than running the risk of, something happening and you not being prepared for it.
Yeah, it's not fun totaling your motorcycle at 55 miles per hour, much less 200 miles per hour. Been watching NHRA drag racing for a very long time, and honestly, I cannot remember hardly any rider going down until honestly recently. Like, we have seen a rash of it, if you will, of riders going down. Amongst the chatter of those that are riders, what is the consensus of why it's happening so much, it seems like, now? Is it just simply as fast as the bikes are? Is it bumps and shutdowns? Is it braking systems? Is it all of it? What's going on?
Honestly, I think it's a combination of a lot of different things. I can't really speak for any other racers. But I mean, we are going a lot faster, than we were, let alone back in 2019. The bikes are getting really fast. The bikes are getting heavier. They're getting faster, harder to stop. Some tracks that we go to are a lot shorter than other tracks. And a lot of tracks that we go to are, a lot bumpier than other tracks. And, what cars experience is a lot different than what the bikes are going to experience. Some tracks we have really bad crosswind, things like that. So, I mean, it's kind of difficult because, you can't just cater to one class. I understand that. But it's hard to pinpoint exactly what it would be. But I mean, I think it'd be a combination, honestly, of a few things.
Yeah, it's been quite wild to see that. As a rider, and after having, I've even asked Brittany about this when she had her crash. How important, and you weren't able to get back on that bike right away. What was your mindset, and did you have any reservation about getting back on that motorcycle?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think when I first started my whole racing career, I told myself that I was going to be very as open and honest with the process as possible. I didn't want to make it out to be something it wasn't, and make myself out to be something, I'm someone I'm not. So I've always been very open about my emotions, things like that, my mental state with racing. And it was really, really difficult. It really took me, I'd say, a solid season after my crash to feel relatively like 100% back mentally and physically. Um, and it was difficult. It was like a weird feeling because it was like, okay, I love what I do. I love racing. It's obviously an extremely dangerous sport. If I walk away, am I going to feel good knowing that I walked away? Am I going to be able to look back in 20 years and know that I made the right decision? And, when I kind of asked myself that, and I was, in a really bad spot mentally, and I was really sad. I was like, my foot's broken. I'm getting married in a month. I was like, I'm going to have to wear a boot at my wedding. Like, it was just not the best time for me. So, and I was very honest, and I brought that question up to myself, and, it came down to, I didn't want to end my racing career on that note. I knew that it was, like a freak accident that had happened. It was the nature of the sport. I knew that I owed it to myself to go out there and at least give it one more shot and give it everything that I had. And then, if I did that and I got back on and I realized, like, what, it's not for me anymore, so be it. Okay. I would feel a lot more comfortable being able to consciously make that decision instead of having that what if in the back of my mind,
Yeah.
All right. Last question for you this evening, and let's turn it to happier thoughts. Of where our conversation has tracked to your improbable win at the finals. I was there, and it's just like, is this about to happen? Is this really happening? Years removed from it, your thoughts on that day in racing where it just went your way?
Yeah, it was a really weird day. And like I still have people tell me about it and they're like, "Yeah, that day was weird." And I was like, "I know it was. Like it was really weird." And it was just crazy. I mean, and like that's kind of when I had like the eye-opening experience of like the definition of drag racing. And it was like you don't always have to be the fastest bike, you don't have to be the best rider. Sometimes it's just when it's your day, it's your day. And the term on any given Sunday is so real. Like, I mean, I am, I experienced that. And it was a very interesting experience. For a long time I felt like I didn't deserve that win. I felt like it was handed to me. And I know that there was a lot of people that felt that way as well. And it took me a long time to understand, like that's just part of drag racing, unfortunately. You can have the best bike out there and some days it just, stuff happens. It's unfortunate, but that's the nature of the sport. And looking back on it, it was amazing. It was a crazy way to end my first season. I definitely use it as like a guide because I always like I joke with myself. I'm like, man, if I could win a race back then when I was riding terrible, like, doing all these things, like, that's something to work for now. Like, I'm a much better rider now. I have a much better bike now. Like, I like any days where I'm like really bad at my riding or something, I'm like, 2019, Gianna, I could do it. Like, you can do it too. Like, let's go. You got to get your act together. So I kind of just use it as inspiration for myself. But I agree. And I'll be the first one to admit it was a very weird day, a very happy day. I'm very blessed, very happy that I was able to experience it. A very awesome way to end my first rookie career. But yeah, it was awesome.
Awesome. Well, good to have you on the show. Good to chat with you and dive in on all the things from dark, gloomy places and happy, bright places. Gianna, we look forward
All
to
the
seeing you
above.
at the track. And you have yourself a good rest of the evening. And I assume you're still out there in California, so you still go get a bite to eat off of a roach coach or something and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm in North Carolina with Matt and Angie.
Oh.
Yeah, just because we have the races back to back, and we're thinking about maybe doing some testing. It's just I call North Carolina like my second home, just because I'm here so much. Like, I'm practically Matt and Angie's kid by now. Just I'm always there, and like I have my own room in their house, and like this is where, and I'll be like, oh, it's my, like I'm coming over, like, and they're like, okay, your room's ready. I'm like, awesome, yay! So I just spent so much time, and it's just going back and forth from California. It's difficult when 90% of our races, East Coast, Midwest. But thank you guys. It was really great speaking with both of you, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Good luck the rest of the season.
Thank you very much. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a great night.
Well, good to chat with Mrs. Evaristo. And
Sure.
Look, man, I will say this. I didn't fill out my bracket and everything just going on, but I would not have had Gianna going to the final round there at Bristol Dragway. That's not to take anything away from her as a rider or the team that she's with, but I think we would all kind of say that we just didn't expect that performance from her. But maybe, though we expect that from Matt and Angie Smith, but now Gianna with such a performance, again, it's tightening up around Gage, Herrera, and that team up at those ranks. We can't take anything away from them and from him. They did go on to win the race, but he wasn't number one qualifier, and you had other people step up, and the performance is tightening.
Oh yeah, I'm loving it. I tried to say that, all that crying and belly aching, it was just a matter of time. Like she said, that's what Matt and Angie do for a living. Like, Matt don't stop working, and they got to work, and they did what I thought they would do. And they're gonna have 3 bikes just like Vance and Hines with their group of bikes. They're gonna have 3 bikes that are gonna really be a problem. And to see Gianna to go out there and to look comfortable, really start to see some progress, not just with her riding the bike, but with the bike itself. She's going to gain more confidence, and I'm really happy that this is a bike that doesn't require a lot of finesse. I love aggressive Gianna. I've said it from the jump. The way she attacks the racetrack is something else, and once those things start to come together, yeah, MSR is going to be a huge problem.
I agree. So much was going down at the Thunder Valley Nationals. We saw a great drag race. Good call by the NHRA to start an hour earlier as well, as they were doing the on-stage, on-track presentation and interviews of the winners. It did start lightly raining, and it just kept rolling in. It never was a deluge, but nonetheless, we would have lost the track, and it would not have moved out anytime soon. And it certainly would have been an issue of, do we hang around and try to finish this thing, or do we just go on to Virginia and finish this thing there in qualifying? So that hour move was a good move once again by the NHRA race control and making such decisions.
Yeah, and I tell you what, if that nostalgia funny car leaking all over the racetrack had caused that event to run long and not get it in, I'm gonna tell you they ain't inviting them back.
I feel sorry for Boychuk and that group. I know they had to feel embarrassed. I know
Yeah,
they had to feel just terrible about it. That is certainly not that, in my opinion, that's not the team that you would expect for that to
no,
happen.
exactly. I agree.
I mean, this Boychuk's been out there for a very long time. He's won a lot of races. You know, we're talking about someone that has made March meet finals and has
Yep.
been up there in points. I I felt so sorry for him. It was
I
because
did.
it was a nasty one. It
It
was.
was, and I'm looking around and I'm getting messages like, this might be it. This might be the nail in the coffin. But yeah, huge credit. I figured that's what they would do. I was hoping that's what the NHRA would do. They were paying attention all weekend long, and that's why you never call it. Call it until it happens. And they kept plugging away, did what they had to do to get that event in, and wasn't worried about what the forecast was. So, it's 50-50, man. Like, I wish I had that job. I can make up stuff and still be wrong and still have the ability to be right too. So I'm glad they were wrong, and I'm glad the NHRA did bump that thing up an hour, and it all worked out, man. All worked out. We had a great event, and it was kind of a real cool way to end it.
It was, and it's challenging in that area weather-wise.
Mm-hmm.
The NASCAR weekend in the spring is notorious for having weather roll in and that race being affected. And you're not that far into summer when the NHRA rolls through. And last year there was weather
Yeah.
impacting the race. There was a stoppage, at least one, maybe two, from what I recall, being there. But the race did get into completion. And hey, sometimes weather just bites, and then other times it bites, but yet you still got it in. So that was the case at Bristol for the Super Grip Thunder Valley Nationals. Something else that got in the I almost, Dave W. He's in the comments section. I almost feel like we set it up for it to happen, but uh, in conjunction with his website www.dragracereference.com put out a stat or several stats concerning Ron Capps. Ron
Yeah.
Capps going into the event was the winningest all-time pro driver at Bristol. Well, now Tony Schumacher has tied him at
Yep.
7. He also, Ron Capps, was the only and last Chevrolet win in a funny car in 2001.
That's a long time ago.
A long time, I know. Austin Prock goes out there and picks up the win in funny car, earning only the second Chevrolet funny car win for the brand. He's only the second driver to do that,
That's
wearing the
insane.
bow tie, if you will. And it, wow. And Ron, I really have to where are they right now? This can't just be testing. This can't just be figuring it out. I certainly don't think Ron and Guido have that program where they want it quite right now.
I still think I do believe I think they are taking a step back to move forward. Just like I think that's what Matt Hagan is doing. I really do. I think they're trying some things out. They're it's not like you're hurting real bad in the points, but I do believe they're taking some steps to move forward to be able to run with Tasca. You look at the two force cars, two funny cars, mind you, running identical like bracket cars. That doesn't happen. Um, I just feel like they know they're looking at the landscape. They understand what's going on here, and they saw it earlier in the season. Look, you got plenty of time to play around. We're just in the first half. We're at halftime right now. We're moving right into the second half of this regular season. And coming into the third quarter, I think you're going to start seeing some progress from both of those guys. I don't think they're just missing. I think they're doing things they need to do to move forward and not be left behind. Because right now, JFR is putting foots all up in people's colons.
Right now, yes, they are strong. I think putting the money on John Force or Austin Prock right now is certainly a good bet. And not to mention, Brittany Force got a much-needed round win and an uncharacteristic kabloo lead by Justin Ashley and Mike Green over there.
Right.
That was interesting to see. Typically, they don't blow them up like that, and it let go for sure. And, Kroger Sucks 45, man, thanks for always watching and commenting. I want to bring this up. What can be done to make sure the Bristol track is better? Shame the racers had to race on a poor track. Caused a lot of motor damage. I know there were some big moments. I know Clay had a couple of moments. Justin Ashley had a couple of moments. You had Daniel Wilkerson with his fireball. I think that's not necessarily a product of the track. I think that's a product of getting into conditions that are more challenging. You're not able to just lay it down. And I also will say this. I don't want the bumps out of Bristol.
Yeah.
I don't want pristine tracks. I want tracks that have got a little bit of character that make crew chiefs sweat and lose sleep at night rolling into Sunday. I want to be in a region, we might lose the race to weather, but yet weather changes throughout the day. And that's exactly what happened on Sunday. Weather changed throughout the day. It was overcast in round one, and by the time you get into round two and round, the semifinals, things are changing, and it was well under sunlight in the final round. I want days like that. I want crew chiefs flipping the notebook. Dear God, where is that? And finding that information and trying to plug it in. I want pedal fest. I want blow up. Don't get me wrong. I don't want it for the sake of it. But nonetheless, we're in a sport where you are burning nitromethane. You have a controlled bomb. Figure it out. Get it down the strip, no matter the challenges of the track. Now, if it's a safety issue, let's fix it. Okay?
Right.
I get that. But I don't believe we have to have pristine tracks. We need safe tracks. But no one has ever said the bumps at Bristol, well, I don't want to say no one. At least I have not heard anyone express that they are unsafe. They're drastic. You can certainly feel them. They're a challenge, but I've never heard unsafe.
Yeah.
I'm fine with bumps.
I'm fine with those bumps too. Look, we saw Tony Schumacher, the Sarge, pedal his way to a win. I like seeing stuff like that. And again, can't make everything easy, man. Like, I mean, it's kind of like what I said back in the day when, they were basically tuning to the stickum. Can't give you traction compound so you can do what you want. Like, there's levels to this, and there's some, there has to take some you doing some scientist type stuff in the trailer to get that thing down the racetrack. Like, we can't just give you a pristine track every place you go so you can go run what you want.
Right. I've heard Randy Meyer say it. I've heard so many people say it. You race the racetrack.
Yeah.
And you have to figure out how to tune to that racetrack.
Yep.
I don't. We don't have human feet on turf with the possibility of ankles getting hurt.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Now, I know I'm talking about motorsports and people can get hurt and there can be serious issues if there was something unsafe at the track. But if those bumps were unsafe, I don't think the competitors would be racing.
I mean, offensive coordinators aren't going to defensive coordinators and saying, hey, man, of the opposing team and saying, hey, can you take that like eighth guy out of the box so we can run the ball better? Or can you not play too high safety so we can throw some bombs down the field and be able to throw some go routes? Nah, they got to take what the defense is giving them. Same thing with the track.
Right.
Take what the defense is giving you,
Right.
tune it
Right.
correctly, and get
Right.
it down there. It's just
Again,
that simple.
I saw there was a lot of competitors who apparently they didn't have too much engine damage over the weekend. Now, sometimes the telltale signs are not just a ball of fire or puffs of smoke. You can, we dropped this, dropped that, we heard this, but nonetheless, you had competitors. I don't see Doug Foley hurt anything over the weekend, and he had a good weekend, round win, and run some good ETs. Austin Prock, I don't think they heard anything over the weekend, at least from what I could tell. So you might have just a situation where some were running in such a way that trying to transition over the bumps, maybe that was causing an issue, but that's something at that track you got to deal with. Dig in that notebook.
I mean, they've been doing it all year. I mean, we look at it. There hasn't been a race where you can predict from 4 rounds or 3 rounds of qualifying to eliminations on Sunday. It's all been different.
Right.
And it's been sometimes different on race day. Throughout the day, they've had to make these changes. So I think it's really been allowing guys to dig into their bag. And I think we're starting to see the cream rise to the top. I really like what I'm seeing. Danny Hood, man, like the dude's in his bag right now. Like, and I understand he's got a lot. You got Fabrizi over there and all of that. But hey, man, the young man is in his bag, and they're throwing some things out there. It ain't just Jimmy doing his thing. Like, got to give him a lot of credit. You're seeing even some of the smaller funded teams. I'll just mention Terry Haddock right out of the bag. Like, dude's running 390s like it's, like it's going out of style. I mean, the dude has just been able to continue to go out and make the right calls, make good, clean runs, and be competitive. It's so great to see. Like, I mean, even this weekend, my plea to Jim Dunn Racing, and they went out there and were able to put together something more consistent than they did last week.
Yeah, A to B.
It's great.
Yeah, from at least what I saw, the last qualifier into round 1 were A to B passes.
Yep.
And that allows them to have some more data and look
Exactly.
at the combination and look at what they got and continue to move forward. Because it's my understanding with that camp that they do desire to move forward, to be quicker and faster and more competitive on a Sunday, to be able to go rounds. Andrew asked, are you guys surprised by Tony Stewart struggling this much?
Nope.
Look, I feel like, for one, when you look at the situation on Sunday, Tony lost to a good drag racer in Doug Foley and a good team.
Facts.
You can't. We have in NHRA drag racing right now, such as Zizzo, such as Doug Foley, such as Carrillo and others.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot, when they show up, they are wild cards. It's like, gosh, man, this is a good car. I can't just hand this to Brittany Force, to Tony Stewart, to whoever is a full-time top-tier team. You just can't hand it to them because these part-time teams showing up are tremendous at this point in NHRA drag racing. So you have, I think, a situation where Tony just lost a good drag race.
Yep.
Okay. And I don't think Tony is struggling in any driving department. I think they just have not hit on whatever that car wants and needs with him in the car to be as quick and as fast as they were with Leah routinely.
Yes, I think that's it right there.
Yeah.
I don't see Tony struggling at all. I think he's driving quite well. He just had some bad matchups, man. Like, he just had some really bad matchups, and that includes Doug Foley. I mean, Doug Foley to me reminds me of what Sean Reed is doing. They know they got a real good happy spot, and they know at any drop of the dime that anytime that they're struggling, they go back to their happy place, and it goes right down the racetrack. And Doug Foley, same thing. they can go out here and push it a little further. But hey, if they're struggling on that, they got their happy place. They go to that happy place and they go right down the racetrack. And I just think right now, the repeatability of that race car hasn't shown itself as much as some of the other guys that they have and girls they have run. Right. So I just think that that's where we're at. I don't think Tony's struggling as a driver at all. I think he's doing quite a heck of a job. I just think with him in the car, it's a little bit different. Trying to get the car to react the way you want it to, versus having Leah in the car, and they're still trying to navigate that with it, because I believe the car is capable. It's just there's other outside factors they're trying to work around.
Yep. So do some research for anybody out there, do some research on vehicle dynamics. And when you change the placement of weight or where that weight is, well, you change vehicle dynamics. Guess what? Leah's body compared to Tony's body, two different bodies. Yep. Okay? From just man to woman. I mean, we're talking about two different things. You look at a Matt Hagan and his body compared to Ron Capps, we're talking about different vehicle dynamics. So if you ever hear about Matt Hagan talking about, Dickie's putting weight here and there, it's because Dickie can, because Matt has a different body than most of the funny car drivers out there. And vehicle dynamics is different with a Hagan compared to a Ron Capps.
Yeah.
And as we're saying here, they got to figure out what that car needs to respond, because though it can be the same chassis, same parts, same pieces, you put in a different driver with enough difference in the measurements of the body, the frame, you have changed vehicle dynamics enough, especially when you're considering 11,000 horsepower from a standing stop to acceleration up to 330 mile per hour plus.
Yeah. It's tough, but I think they're slowly chipping away at it. Now it's just trying to get that thing to repeat consistently over and over and over again. That's the key.
Right. Don, thank you for tuning in. You are on the live chat. We got you, man.
Yeah, we got you.
And thank you, everyone, for chiming in, for hitting the like button, hitting the share button, and dropping a comment. We've got a few more moments here. Chewy's is closing up around me. And I've got to also keep heading north to get up to McKinney Corp tomorrow in Lafayette, Indiana, and see what great and wonderful things they got going on that are being fabricated for Subaru and Caterpillar and NHRA drag cars and NASCAR Cup cars and Indy cars and all the cars, it seems like, out of Lafayette there at McKinney Corp. So, Dujanay, with the few moments we've got, what else is on your mind from the Thunder Valley Nationals? There's a lot of chatter of this event, whether it's bumps, whether it's runs being disallowed and wins taken from one person and given to another and surprise people in final rounds, and Chevrolet picking up a win in a class that hadn't picked up in a long, long time, so on and so on. Tons of storylines.
Pro Mod for me is on my mind here. I just happened to stumble on Courtney Enders, her promoting the show today, and heard that JR Gray's run was disallowed, and I'm like, what? What's going on here? Huge surprise for me. I have not dug into that yet. I actually will likely look at the Shake and Bake show tomorrow while I am twiddling away at work. That Pro Mod class has been amazing to watch. I've been trying to look at something a little different and give something else a little bit more love, and Pro Mod has been it for me. I'm really surprised at where Lyle Barnett is right now. I would thought he would be a little bit further ahead, but again, when you look at the class top to bottom, there are no slouches, anywhere on that list. Every car can run and run well. And I think we're seeing that with the wins that we've seen. I don't think there's been a Pro Mod car to repeat as winner, if I'm not mistaken, this year. So I'm excited about that. And Mountain Motor Pro Stock was fun. I know I saw a couple comments of people hating on the 500 cubic inch car, but I really like them. I think they're a very interesting thing to watch, and it's really weird because when you watch them, they just a little bit longer than a pro stock car, and then they have a different sound. You expect it because it looks like a pro stock car almost that it would sound around the same, but they have a different sound when they go down the racetrack versus the pro stock car. So those two things are pretty
Motor,
cool.
I covered Mountain Motor this weekend. Love Mountain
Did a good
Motor.
job.
I can remember, from the first time seeing Mountain Motor at an IHRA national event, it was just astounded because the motors are mountains compared to the 500 cubic inch cars, because we're talking about 820 plus, the limit being 825. You'll find some with 822, 824, they fall in that 820 to 825 range. But if you want to see the action, it is on the Monday Morning Racer YouTube channel. You can see the 8-car field from round 1 to the final round. But John DeFlorian, talked with him. Chassis, same. There's hardly any different. You'll find a little bit different body styles, which I like. The Mustangs actually look like a Mustang. That's nice.
They do, yeah.
But other than that, you can choose carburetors, but a lot of guys are running electric fuel injection, even in the Mountain Motors. So you just have that bigger engine, and yes, they're throatier. They got a lower rumble to them. They got some pop every now and then, and I certainly do enjoy Mountain Motor Pro Stock. And look, I enjoy 500 cubic inch Pro Stock as well. One individial commented on my video, like, I don't know why NHRA continues to do everything with the 500 cubic inch. Well, it's like, the 500 cubic inch combination was NHRA's thing.
Yeah.
And it has been since, early 80s, if I remember correctly, if not a little sooner. So you've got that as their thing. The IHRA went down the track of, we're going to have Mountain Motor, the bigger motors, more cubic inches. So, slowly you've had Mountain Motor be incorporated into the NHRA fold and family, though it is, to some degree at this point, a bastard class, if you will.
Yeah.
It's in that situation. But I will say, Johnson's horse-powered garage, Jason Johnson, stepping up, helping out that class, because it is Johnson's horse-powered garage Mountain Motor Pro Stock in the NHRA. They are running for championship. They're running for more money than they ever have, and that is good to see for the Mountain Motor competitors, and they're stretching them out to the quarter mile. And it's always good to see naturally aspirated machines doing 220 plus. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. And you did a good job with that coverage. So make sure you guys support it. Go out and check it out. It was great, well done, well put together there.
Appreciate that, man. I appreciate it. Well, look, speaking of good job, you've done a good job tonight. Everyone's done a good job. This has been a good show. We have certainly enjoyed being here with you all. I'm done. I got to check out. They're shutting it up. They're looking at me like, why are you still here? Turn your light off and go.
Well, it was a great one.
That it was. Folks, thank you for tuning in. And until next time, God bless, and keep the pedal to the metal, and make sure that you are keeping things peak in your life.
If you want to take your vehicle's performance to new heights, you got to give it P. Like our original equipment technology, antifreeze, and coolant. Our formulas match the vehicle manufacturer's technology requirements so that we have the perfect match for every vehicle. That's one reason why Peak is among the fastest growing brands of coolant in America. We work